I mean, everyone has their strengths. I think he's a decent wrestler. He's a big, strong guy. I think he has a bit of boxing experience too, but I think I match up well against him.
Aaron Jeffery!
Hey guys, welcome back to SmokeMMA. Today, I'm joined by the current middleweight cage fury fighting champion, Aaron Jeffery. What's going on today, Mr. Jeffery?
Hey man, how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Of course.
So you have an upcoming fight against Rex Harris on January 29th. What does training camp look like in the lead up to this fight?
Training's been good. It's been a little bit shorter of a camp than I'm used to. Like my last few fights, I've had like at least a couple months notice. The last fight for Contender Series, I actually had like 5 months notice, so that was long. But I'm always in the gym, so it's kind of nice to have a bit of a shorter notice fight and not have to like think about it for too long. So it's been good. I like it.
So when you say like to not think about it for too long, do you feel like with too long of a training camp, it could get into your head like about the fight?
Yeah, it becomes mentally exhausting to have like one guy in your mind, a place and a date, and thinking about it for so long. Like I said, the Contender Series fight, I think I had like 5 months notice. So to think about the certain guy, the certain date, and everything for 5 months is yeah, it can be a little tiring.
Gotcha. And now, this is gonna be your first title defense. What was the road like to get the title and end up winning it from Colin Huckbody?
It was pretty smooth, I'd say. I mean, I won a few fights in a row beforehand, and then CFFC reached out and said they wanted to give me a title shot, so we took it. Yeah, I fought Huckbody. I won all 4 rounds. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but I didn't take any damage. And I think I beat him pretty handedly, so it was good.
That's good. And so in your first title defense against Rex Harris, is there anything specific in his style that you have to look out for?
I mean, everyone has their strengths. I think he's a decent wrestler. He's a big, strong guy. I think he has a bit of boxing experience too, but I think I match up well against him.
So speaking of like his strengths and his weaknesses, is there anything specific you did in camp to counteract his strengths and prey on his weaknesses?
Um, Honestly, man, nothing super specific. Like I don't go into great depth and like studying tape or anything like that. Like I'll watch some, obviously get an idea of what the guy does, see what we think he's gonna do. But it's more about fighting your own fight, in my opinion.
Got it. So we've seen you training with big names in the UFC like Sam Alvey, Sean Strickland, Cowboy Cerrone, and many more. What have you learned from them that you like to take into your fights?
The main thing I learned training with these guys is that I'm on that level and I deserve to be there too. Like I'm not going in there with like top UFC guys and getting my ass kicked. I'm having good rounds and winning some rounds. So it just it confirms where my skill level is at.
Gotcha. And so before going into your second attempt at Dana White's Contender Series, you were riding a 4-fight win streak and then unfortunately came up a little short. What did you learn from that fight that you plan on taking into your next fight?
Maybe the confidence thing, like I was just saying. I know I train with some of these really high level guys and I'm at that skill level. I think I was a bit hesitant in that fight, worrying about some of my opponent's strengths. So I think, like I said, I got to go out there and fight my own fight, and just be confident and know what I can do.
Yeah, so we keep talking about like the mentality behind it. How much more is fighting mental than physical?
Well, it's definitely both. I mean, you could be super strong mentally and be a fat slob and go out there and you're probably not going to be a great athlete and you're not going to fight very well. So it's definitely both. You have to train hard. You have to get your body in good physical shape. But yeah, on fight night, you have to be dialed in.
Got it. So you train at both Modern Vision MMA in Canada, and you've trained at Syndicate MMA. What have you learned from like both camps that has sort of built the style of fighting that you like to fight with?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I think I've been to a lot of different gyms. I've been in California. I've been like across the states. I've been in some gyms in Canada. I think it's pretty consistent across the board. Like the top guys are in the gym day in and day out and working hard, focusing on all areas, and just committed to what they do.
Got it. So you fought in many different organizations over the span of your career, and from the LFA to a couple appearances on Dana White's Contender Series to now fighting in the Cage Fury Fighting Champions. Which organization do you like fighting for the best, and where do you hope to be in a couple years from now?
Contender Series is, I mean, it's the UFC treatment. It's like the highest level almost, right? I mean, other than the UFC, the Contender Series is where you want to be. So I'd have to say that's my favorite. CFFC is good too, though, man. They run a very professional show. They do everything very well. So I like them too.
Got it. And so what are your goals for the rest of 2022 after your fight on January 29th?
I would like to have at least 3 fights and win them all, and hopefully end up in a big organization at the end of the year.
And then what will a big win on January 29th do to your career moving forward?
That's a good question, man. I'm in a weird spot because I lost on Contender Series twice. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I'm going to have to win and see what happens.
Now, backtracking a little bit to when we were talking about the Contender Series, and you said it was like the UFC treatment. What was it like going on to the Contender Series?
It's great, man. I mean, it's just at the highest level of the sport. You're at the UFC Apex. You're in Las Vegas. I mean, it's the fight capital of the world. It's just it's a really cool experience.
And now, what exactly got you involved in MMA to make you want to do this professionally?
I just enjoyed watching it when I was growing up. I had an older brother, and he was watching it, and I would tag along and watch with him. And I started training just for fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I did some jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I was doing okay. And then my coach asked me if I wanted to fight, and I did it, and I loved it, and I've stuck with it ever since.
Gotcha. So those are the questions that I have prepared currently. So up next, I want to do a thing called 10 and 10, where I go through the top 10 contenders at your current weight class, which is the middleweights. And then usually I give your thoughts on them and what you think of them.
Sure.
So starting off the list at number 9 is Uriah Hall.
He's good, man. I've been watching him for a long time. Funny thing, actually, I cornered against him this past summer. I was in Strickland's corner against Uriah Hall, so that was an interesting experience seeing a guy I've watched for many years across the cage from me.
That's awesome. And then what was it like cornering do you like cornering the fights as well as fighting?
I like it. I mean, especially like main event UFC, walking out with Sean Strickland, that was pretty cool. But it's nerve-wracking, man. I think I get more nervous to corner than I do to fight.
Is that just because like you don't want to see the guy that you're cornering lose compared to if it's your fight, it's your destiny? So then like you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, you feel like you have more control when it's you in there fighting. When you're watching from the outside, you can't really do anything about it. So it can be a little bit scary.
Got it. Then up next we have Darren Till.
Till's good, man. I want to see more of him. It seems like he's been not super active the last couple of years. I'm excited to see him get back in there.
Now, what was your opinion on like his last couple fights against Robert Whitaker and Derek Brunson?
I don't recall exactly what happened. He lost to Brunson, right?
Mm-hmm. He got submitted in the 3rd round.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Till has a lot of potential. I think he can do big things.
And then we got Sean Strickland.
Strickland's my boy. I love that guy. I trained with him for the first time 2 or 3 years ago, and I said I could see this guy being champ one day, and he's on his way there. I think he might do it.
Yeah, I had Sam Alvey on SmokeMMA interviews as well, and he was saying that he thinks Sean Strickland's going to be the first ever triple champ in the UFC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So weight classes?
Yeah, he said that he's going to win the belt at middleweight, then drop down the welterweight and beat whoever's there. And after he beats the welterweight champ, he's going to bump up 2 weight classes to the light heavyweight and win the belt from whoever is there.
I don't know if Strickland's ever making 170 again, so I don't know about that.
And then we got Jack Hermanson.
He's good, man. He's fighting Strickland next, right? It's a big fight. Hermansson's got some solid grappling. I think he's got a little bit of holes in his striking. I think, unfortunately for him, that Strickland's going to win that fight.
Then we got Paulo Costa.
He's a savage, man. He's a big, powerful dude. I'm interested to see if he's ever going to make 185 again. Obviously, his last fight, he had those weight cut issues, so we'll see what happens with him.
Now, do you think he should stay at 185, or do you think he should bump up?
I don't know. He was massive in his last fight and had to weigh in at 205, and he was still pretty shredded at 205. So I don't know. I think that might be his weight class.
Gotcha. Now entering the top 4 contenders in the champion, we have Derek Brunson.
Brunson's good, man. He's a vet. He's been around for a long time. He's beat a ton of high-level guys. He's a sick wrestler. He's getting a little bit older. I don't know if I can ever see him being champ, but I think he stays in the top 10 for a long time.
Gotcha. Then we got Jared Cannonier.
He's good, man. He's had a good rise to the top 10. He's been through a few weight classes. I think he found his home at 185. I don't know if I ever see him being champ either, but I think he's like a top 5, top 10 guy for a while too.
Then we have Marvin Vittori.
He's good, man. I'm a big fan of his. Big, powerful guy. Really good striking. Nice boxing. I don't know if he can beat Izzy, but I think if someone else can win the belt from Izzy, I think he can definitely be champ, beating somebody else.
Gotcha. Then we have Robert Whitaker.
Whitaker's sick, man. I'm excited for his next fight. He's fighting Izzy too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think he is a guy that could beat Izzy, so I'm pumped to see what happens in that one.
And then finishing out the list, we have Israel Adesanya.
He's the champ. He's the champ for a reason. He's got some of the cleanest striking in the game. He's taking guys out, so he's very fun to watch.
And then, what did you make of his last few performances after losing to Jan Blachowicz and then defeating Marvin Vittori in a dominant fashion? Like, what was your opinion on all that?
He's good, man. I mean, I don't think he's a huge 85er, so I think it's tough for him to go up a weight class and win fights there, especially against like a big, strong dude that's going to wrestle him. But I think he can stay the champ at 85 for a long time.
Now, do you feel like his wrestling has holes in his game, or do you see any like weaknesses in him?
Yeah, I mean, he's showed that before. He's been taken out a bunch of times. Jan was able to take him down and stay on top, what looked like relatively easily. But I mean, he's the champ at 85, and he's taking guys out, so he's very good.
And that rounds out my 10 and 10 list. So next, I want to run through a couple upcoming fights with you, and get your predictions on them and what you think is going to happen and how it's going to play out.
Sure.
All right. Starting out the list, we have Jack Manson versus Sean Strickland.
I'm going with my boy Strickland. I think he gets a TKO.
Then we got Derek Brunson versus Jared Cannonier.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go Cannonier also by TKO.
Then we have Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis.
That's a sick fight. Dude, I don't know. Heavyweights can go either way. It's a coin flip. They both hit so hard. It only takes one punch. I'll go with Lewis. I like him.
And talking about heavyweights, what did you make of yesterday's fights at UFC 270?
That was sick, man. I thought Francis looked great. I thought he was patient. I thought he was trying to pick his shots a bit more, and his grappling looked like super improved. I don't know. We've never seen him doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling and hitting takedowns, and I thought that was great. That's a big improvement in this game, obviously.
Do you feel like that's something we're going to see a lot more of in Ngannou, or do you feel like that was just to counteract gains like Muay Thai style?
No, I don't think we're going to see that from him too often. I think he found that was working and stuck with it, but I don't think that was probably his game plan.
Gotcha. And then also speaking of UFC 270, you also had a teammate make her UFC debut, I'm pretty sure, yesterday. And yeah, she won by unanimous decision. What did you make of that fight?
That was sick, man. I think that was probably her best performance. She looked calm. She looked like she was comfortable in there. Her striking looked good. Her grappling looked good. Yeah, that was a very good fight.
Yeah, she put on a very dominant performance in her UFC debut, winning all 3 rounds on, I think, every judge's scorecard. What do
Yeah,
you think is next for her in her journey? And do you feel like she put out a good impression to the Dana White?
I think so for sure. I don't know what's next. I'm sure they'll give her another tough girl to fight, and I think Jazz can rattle off a few wins here this year for sure.
Now, switching back to upcoming fights, who do you have between Adesanya and Whitaker in their rematch?
I'm going to go with Whitaker. I think he's going to make some adjustments and get the belt.
Do you feel like his loss to Adesanya motivated him to get better, and that's why he's been on the tear he's been on?
I think so, man. I think anyone that comes off a loss is motivated to get better. So yeah, for sure. And I think they're already pretty close in skill level.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, I think Whitaker is going to make some adjustments and get the belt.
And then we have Beneil Dariush versus Islam Makhachev.
I think Islam, man, he's too good. His wrestling is way too strong for most guys in that division.
Do you see Islam becoming champ at any point, or do you feel like he loses to the top contenders, or what's your opinion on Islam?
I can definitely see him becoming champ.
And then we have Jorge Mazzerov versus Colby Covington.
I'm going to go with Colby. I think Colby just pressures him, wrestles him, just puts a pace on him for the whole fight.
Now, Chael Sonnen was describing this fight as a must-win for Jorge Masvidal, seeing as if he loses this fight, he's out of title contention for a very long time. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't know how close he is to title contention anyways. I don't think it does a whole lot for his career either way. I mean, I'm sure he'd love to win the belt, but he's a big fan favorite. He's making big money. He's going to get big name fights. So either way, I think he's going to be in there and fighting consistently.
Gotcha. And so that's all I have for like confirmed upcoming fights. Then there are a few fights that have been rumored or in the works that I want your opinions on, if that's all right.
Of course.
So we have UFC 274 has just been rumored to be with Justin Gaichi versus Charles Oliveira and Yuri Prohaska versus Glover Teixeira. What do you make of that card? And I think it's going to be headlining in Brazil.
Those are two pretty sick fights. I also saw those rumors coming out. I hope that's the case, man. That's pretty sick.
And then also UFC 273 was also put into the works with the rematch between Jan and Sterling, and Max Holloway was originally supposed to be fighting Volk for a third time, but had to pull out due to injury. So now it's the Korean Zombie versus Volkanovsky. What do you make of those two fights?
Good fights. I think Volk's way too good for the Korean Zombie, and I think he's gonna pick him apart and beat him up pretty good. But yeah, that's another sick card. I think Yan wins that fight easily too.
You feel like he's gonna put the pace on him, like sort of how he did in the first fight, but except he's just gonna stick to the game plan, or how do you feel that fight's gonna go?
With Yan, I think he's just gonna box him up and beat him up and probably get a TKO.
Gotcha. So that's all I have for upcoming fights. Now I got one more question for you, and that's what is your fantasy fight to make for like a future opponent of yours or like a fight to watch?
I'm gonna go with a fight to watch. I want to see John Jones get in there with some of these heavyweights. I want to see Francis and Jones finally happen.
Gotcha. And who would you have winning that fight if they were to fight?
I don't know, man. That's a tough call. I'm gonna say Francis just because his grappling looked so good last night.
Gotcha. So that's everything I have prepared. Is there anything that you want to say to people watching this interview?
Tune in next weekend, January 29th, CFFC on UFC Fight Pass. I'll be defending my CFFC middleweight title.
I'll make sure to put the link to Fight Pass in this in the video, as long as all your social medias. So make sure to go check out Aaron Jeffery. Thank you again for doing this interview with me today, Mr. Jeffery.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.